Welcome to Authentic Wellness with Joni and Joey. I'm Joni.
And I'm Joey.
We have another good show today.
Of course we do. Why would we have a bad show?
True.
But this one is a really good one.
Yes, Andreas.
Yes.
He is an acupuncturist.
Yeah, he sticks needles in Joni.
He does. He does.
I still think it's kind of weird, but maybe after today, I'll be convinced that it's a good thing.
Yes, but not only acupuncture. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the difference between Eastern medicine and Western medicine.
Right.
What the difference is, what the benefits are of both.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. Just trying to do a little bit of reading for today and to be prepared for questions to ask. The philosophies around Western medicine versus Eastern medicine, it's really interesting what a stark difference it can be.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if the answer lies somewhere with a little bit of both, but it certainly has enough features to consider that maybe we're not doing everything exactly the right way with our medicine here.
Well, I think, from personal experience, I think a little bit of both is the way to go.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely times when you need Western medicine.
Right.
But if you can it kind of goes back to functional medicine.
Exactly.
If you can get to the root of the problem,
right,
and treat it naturally,
yeah, why wouldn't you? Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to learn some great techniques and some good information today, and see where we land between East and West.
Can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Me neither.
We are so excited about today's guest. Today we have Andreas, licensed acupuncturist. We're so thankful that you decided to join us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Glad you could be here. And for today's show, we get to be 3 J's. Joni, Joey, and Jessie. Right. So today, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about Eastern medicine versus Western medicine. We did a little research and TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, right? Mm-hmm. So first, do you want to tell us your background, your story, how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been in some facet in the health industry. I was a personal trainer. I got licensed when I was probably about 14.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of my path at that point, and fell out of it for a little while. I think I was too young in age, but I really enjoyed I wanted to be like a bodybuilder at that point until I didn't grow anymore from 14. So then I found myself just growing. I grew up eating a pretty bad diet, single mother at 3, worked all the time, no home cooked meals. It was kind of just like feed yourself.
Just wing it.
Yeah, so it was straight up McDonald's, Domino's pizza, TV dinners, and candy.
Your basic food groups.
Literally the only food I ate.
Do you remember how you felt at that time?
Tired all the time.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was active. I played. This is before the internet and cell phones, so we still went outside and played sports and stuff like that. And I did wrestle, but I was, I had worse cardio than other kids, and I think probably due to those reasons. But so that kind of balanced me out somewhat, but it started kind of catching up with me as I hit my late teens, early 20s, mm-hmm. and just started fatigue, inflammatory signs, probably would have been diagnosed with IBS and a host of other symptoms. And then what it really started to motivate me to get into this field was, so I was diagnosed with prostatitis, which essentially felt like I was carrying a watermelon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like
at a young age, that's unusual, right?
Yeah, the doctors even said, but I guess they were saying that it's more and more common these days than it used to be. But yeah, I was essentially starting to manifest problems of somebody more than twice my age at that point. And went to a doctor, sent me to a specialist. Guy wrote me, literally didn't look at me, just handed me a script without looking at me.
Yeah.
After 2 seconds, and I read the side effects on there, which were like you're gonna grow breasts and things like that.
Oh my goodness!
And I just threw the prescription in the garbage because it wasn't gonna help me anyway. It was gonna maybe manage my symptoms, whatever that meant. But I really had higher expectations than that.
That's so crazy that he didn't ask you any questions. He didn't
No.
look at you at all. He just wrote your prescription.
Because it's kind of about matching symptoms with drugs. Mm-hmm. And
Western medicine.
That's as far as he's going to take it.
Right.
That's as far as he's going to take it. So as soon as he heard the keyword of the symptom, he said, I know that, this drug, and that's kind of as far as his role was going to go.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw our episode about functional medicine, but that was exactly
Yeah.
what she said, was you hear the symptoms, you match it with the diagnosis, you give a drug. And that was what traditional medicine had been like.
It's very robotic. And even in holistic medicine, a lot of the times people are essentially doing that. They're just using natural substances instead of drugs. Real traditional medicine, which is not as practiced as you would think it would be, because a lot of even alternative or natural doctors are still going to do that, but instead of matching a pharmaceutical, they're going to give you an herb. But traditional medicine really doesn't do that. It's totally uniquely based on the individual, because the word medicine, right? Med, the middle. So if you're too far in one direction, the health medicine is going to be pulling you back towards the middle, right? So if you go to a Chinese medicine practitioner, you might get asked questions like, we always want to know where you stand on the extremes. So say in terms of thirst, some people might be like, they have this unquenchable thirst. You see this with painkillers, people that are on painkillers sometimes. Unquenchable thirst, can't get enough water, always dry mouthed. Then on the other side, you might have people that they're never thirsty. They have to force themselves to drink water. And even if they are thirsty, they don't want to drink water. Because that's a different, so you're not going to give them the same herbs.
Yeah.
Even if they have the same diagnosis, whatever term you throw at that, they don't need the same thing to bring them back into balance. And that's a level of herbalism that's pretty rare to see it. Now, not saying that it doesn't work, to say, oh, take this herb if you have a headache. That can work. But in my experience, sometimes it will, oftentimes it won't. And a lot of the times what works best is following the traditional way of doing it. So like, for example, I've had patients say with shingles, it's a virus, right? So most people, alternative or Western, even in the alternative field, they're going to give you antiviral herbs. They might give you you look at some of the Chinese medicine companies that make formulas that someone with shingles might take, it's going to be loaded with antiviral herbs.
Right.
That's not traditional medicine. That's Western medicine, just using herbs.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is the majority of what you will see out there. That can work, but I remember a case where I gave that formula, didn't do anything. Then I gave, according to the traditional way of doing it, not one antiviral herb in there, gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
because it's addressing the landscape of the person.
Yeah.
If you're a person who's always cold all the time, you're always tired, you have a tendency towards loose stools, brain fog, that's a very different pattern than somebody who's running on that kind of empty heat. They might be exhausted, but they're full of energy because they're just kind of burning the oil in their lamp. That would be another whole type of person, and you're not going to give those people the same herbs. If you do, you're kind of going to get lucky if it works, in my opinion. And it may, because health is mysterious like that.
Right. So
all
even
different-
in the traditional Chinese medicine, it's looking at the individual person and finding what
Always.
authentically works
Always,
for them.
always.
So
Yeah.
once again, our guest today is a practitioner that I see, and
There's a theme here.
I remember the first time I came to see you, and then even later on too, like the pages of information that I had to fill out for you was way more than any doctor I've ever seen.
And there are also questions that most of us never think about.
Right.
So that's one of the struggles of getting good information, is because people don't pay attention to this stuff. So you might ask someone a question and they're going to give you the wrong answer, even though they have that. They have those symptoms. They just never paid attention to that, because it's a lot of the symptoms in Chinese medicine of pathology are just normal, in a Western understanding. This stuff, they're like, yeah, doesn't everybody have that? Right. But it's like, yeah, maybe. Normal in the sense of it's common, not in the sense that it should be that way.
That's a great differentiator.
Yeah, because we
Normal
use
and
them.
common.
We use them two different ways, right? We use
Right.
normal to mean common, but like say a woman that or a girl that you see using a heating pad for her menstrual cramps. That's Chinese medicine right there. That's a essentially the diagnosis would usually be cramping due to a cold stagnation in there. So it's intuitive to warm that up.
Warm it up.
Yeah. So like in Asian cultures, you'll see they don't really drink ice water, eat raw salads. When you get sushi, they give you ginger and wasabi, right? Because your digestive system is a fire. You don't want to put a cold, wet log on that, because then you're not going to make energy. You're just going to make what we would call dampness, or in Western, it might be more like phlegm or mucus. So how many of these signs do you see? All over the place. Everything from allergies to nausea, bloating, loose stools, fatigue, edema, heaviness. Some people will say, "Oh, I know when the weather is going to change because I get a headache." It's because their body's so full of dampness that it's going to respond to those aggravating factors. And then to have that kind of complete understanding, so you might avoid more greasy, fatty foods, cheeses, milk, things that bananas, because that's all going to be damp forming. So in modern times, people like objectively a good or bad, right? But it's never like that. It's never that objectively good or bad. So someone might say, "Are bananas good?" That's not a real question. Exactly, it's not a real question, because to some people that are full of damp signs, bananas are not going to be your friend. But to somebody else, it's not going to matter. It's going to be fine.
So a lot of what you're saying sounds like things I've read about in Ayurveda. A lot of the
Ayurveda is very, very similar. From, not that I know a ton about Ayurveda, but from the little bit that I do know, it's kind of their version of the same thing of Chinese medicine. Vata, Pitta, Kapha, so that's heat, dryness, or I believe it's what is it? Kapha is kind of the damp one.
I'm Pitta. What are you?
I don't know. Kapha,
and most people are probably going to be like a
a
percentage kind of of all of those.
We might have. You are.
We might have like a constitutional tendency to be one of them, but that's changeable, and we're usually a percent breakdown of all of them.
So you went to this traditional medicine. They gave you a prescription. You're like, "That's crazy. I'm not doing that." So is that the point where you decided to study further with the traditional Chinese medicine?
Yeah, so I started looking up some stuff on the internet about the symptoms I was dealing with, and then I came to a page that was telling me about a TCM perspective and kidney qi and stuff like that.
Now, what is qi?
So
I know chia seeds. I'm guessing that's not it.
Yeah, no, qi.
Wait,
QI.
Is it life force?
It's a huge argument that you're going to get people riled up in this field.
Tell us what it is.
Okay, I would say that there's many different definitions in Western that would all be under the qi umbrella.
But it's spelled QI.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. In Western language, it's spelled QI, but it would be most commonly is translated as energy. Scholars that I've heard say that that's not accurate. It's actually usually more referring to the function of something. So if you talk about your liver qi, the function of your liver, a lot of times it's talking about oxygen or breath. They say, there's just qi in the air, and you breathe in the great qi and you extract the pure qi from the great qi. So they knew in ancient times that you're breathing in this air, but there's something in the air that is actually a more pure form of that. So today we would just call that oxygen. Right? But they knew that back then. They just differentiated types of qi. So it's a very broad term, but I'd say between oxygen, the function of something, that probably encompasses most of the definitions. But also too, when they talk about the energy or the qi flowing through your body, in my perspective, it's nerves. It's your nerves.
Okay.
They knew there's this electric zing. If I needle you in a certain way, what is that? Or what's animating us? What's allowing us to move? And they knew that there's a relationship between the qi and the blood. So if your arm goes to sleep, you can't move your arm, right? Because there's no blood in there. Then there's no qi. So they knew that the two must go together. One will go with the other. It's a yin yang sort of relationship. So if you didn't have if your spinal cord was severed, I'm willing to bet acupuncture is not going to work. So it's not that the qi, because the qi in the metaphysical kind of more woo-woo sense is still there, right? I cut your spinal cord, the qi is still there. But acupuncture is not going to work.
So let me ask you this: when you say that, If you're healthy, your health is when you're in balance. We always talk about being in balance. And then when you have disease, you're out of balance. So is that the point of acupuncture, is to help bring your body back into balance?
So acupuncture is a complete medical system. So whatever you would go to a doctor for, you could go to an acupuncturist for. Now, some things acupuncture will be the more effective way to treat it. Some things herbs, or some things maybe neither. It's more diet and lifestyle advice. Sorry, can you tell me what you were saying?
Well, I was just asking if acupuncture was a way to help put your body back in balance.
Oh, yeah. So I think originally it was probably more like the emperor's medicine, right? You wanted to help the emperor live to be 1,000 years old and have 100 kids. So it is definitely you don't need to wait for something to break to fix it, because when you do a thorough Chinese medical evaluation, nobody's healthy. Nobody's healthy.
Right.
Yeah. When you're learning about diagnosis and theory in school, you're sitting there feeling like a complete mess because you have everything that they're saying. And it's not that you have everything; it's that you've experienced all these things at some point in your life, but you just never thought of them as anything out of the ordinary or like that needed work.
Well, it's that normal versus common.
Exactly. So they might say, hunger with no desire to eat. And you're thinking, oh, you know what? I feel like I've had that in my life before, where I'm hungry but nothing sounds good, but never thought about it.
Yeah.
And there's a million of those things in Chinese medicine. So the more you learn about it, the more you're like, all right, there's no hell. It's a process. It's a journey. It's not a static place that you're going to get to and then be done.
Right.
I always tell people, your health is like cleaning your house. Your house gets dirty all by itself. You really don't need to do anything. You need to always be cleaning.
Right.
You can come up with systems that make it get less dirty less frequently, but you're not going to just clean it and that's the cleaning to end all cleanings. Then you're never going to have to do anything again. It's just, it breaks down all by itself.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
You always have to be taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And the more sensitive you are, like me, I think I'm pretty sensitive even before I learned Chinese medicine as far as what's going on in my body. And I might have been called or mistaken to be kind of like, nuts, right? you're too sensitive. People would tell me, it's all in your head, the pain that you're experiencing or whatever. You say, it's all in your head, and I got that from not just Western doctors, just from the people around me.
Yeah.
But I think the more, that's a blessing. To be really sensitive with what's going on in your own body is a blessing, because you can cut something out at the seedling stage. Most people are going to wait till that disease is a fully grown redwood tree, and then they're going to call in their team of professionals to try to chop that tree down. Whereas you can see that when it's a little root and just right up.
Yeah. So when you say you're sensitive, do you just mean like aware, like know your body?
Yes. Yeah. I'm aware of my body. I'm paying attention to my body all the time. Yeah.
So if someone gets the big redwood tree, instead of having to chop it down, if they come to you, can you gradually bring it back down to the seedling, or once it's there, is it always there? No,
I never ever just assume that healing is not possible or something like that, because who knows, right? You will be amazed. The more people you treat, you'll be amazed at some of the things that happen and the results that people get. So I look at it as, look, your body has its own innate capacity to heal. If you cut your arm, you don't need to think of anything, right? It heals.
It heals.
Yeah. That's the intelligence of nature, of life. If it's not healing, now you might need to use your intellect and say, okay, am I deficient in a nutrient? Am I whatever the case may be as to why you're not healing? But the way it should take care of itself. You shouldn't have to use your thinking to do anything like that.
Yeah.
So no. Now, how much capacity someone has to heal is going to be not just based on their genetics. I think sometimes we tend to give too much weight to genetics. Genetics is what it is, but I don't even want to think about that, because I don't want to use that as some kind of like an excuse as to why I'm not getting what I want.
I was going to say, sometimes it's just an excuse. It's in my genes. I can't help it.
Oftentimes, because it's easy, right? It's out of my hands. No matter what I do, you hear people say this, no matter what I eat, I can't lose weight. It's like, really? Let me put a hidden camera in your house.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is being really honest with yourself, which is, not as common as it should be. To just be really honest with yourself, and then just to pay attention to yourself. I think those two things alone will get you a majority of what you're looking for. But yeah, so each individual's capacity to heal aside from genetics, what are they doing in their off time? What do they do when I'm not with them? Now, I don't see that, and that's going to either slow down or speed up this process. And then again, medicine, health in general is so mysterious that sometimes, no matter what you're thinking, how you might have somebody that you're thinking, oh, this looks pretty hopeless, I'm about to quit already, and they make amazing progress and results, and then the same might be true in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But at least in my own journey, I failed. When I first had my prostate symptoms, right, the first thing I didn't know anything about herbs or medicine. I just started reading about herbs, doing Google searches, and all the common ones that'll come up: saw palmetto, nettle root, all these common herbs that, in a Western sense, have shown some efficacy in that issue. And I would try them for a while. Never felt like anything was really I don't know, maybe it's helping, maybe it's not, I can't really tell.
Yeah.
And about a year or two would go by, and I wasn't getting anywhere. But eventually I did. Eventually, when I found the right herb, within 5 days, I was 80% better.
So I was going to say,
Yeah.
I imagine if you
Yeah.
buy your herbs off of, not against Amazon, but if you buy them from Amazon versus going to a traditional Chinese medicine,
Yeah, and again,
actual
you're gonna
provider,
have a
different.
very different. You're gonna get something different. There's no standard of care in Chinese medicine. So you go to 10 different acupuncturists, you might get 10 different herbal
Well,
formulas.
and is a little bit of it trial and error?
100%.
Yeah.
In medicine in general, and I'm fine with the trial and error. The whole thing is, what's the upside versus the downside? If in a life-saving emergency situation, that's when Western medicine is the answer, right? Because I don't care about the side effect when it just saved my life. I had a fever I'm dying of, my brain is swelling, whatever the case is, I'm not so concerned about the side effect in a life-saving situation. But the day-to-day chronic stuff that's not killing us right now, it's just slowly debilitating and wearing us away. Sometimes the downsides, which can be unknown, the unknown downside could outweigh the upside. And a lot of times their upsides come with downsides, almost all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just about using things properly. So for me, in a life-saving emergency situation, I would use Western medicine. In all other situations, I wouldn't. So I think Western medicine has its place, but in my perfect world, it would be reduced heavily from where it is now.
to do them both in
Yeah, I wouldn't get rid
combination.
of pharmaceutical medication, but it'd be taking a big hit if I had my way. You know, to most people that are on them probably don't need to be.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe not most, but a lot of them that are on it is because that's the tool that the doctor had in his tool belt. You went to him, he gave you that. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But the authority that Western medicine has in this culture, because you might go to your doctor, you might get a med, gives you side effects, or it doesn't work. You go back and you tell them, this happened, it didn't work. The patient's not going to all of a sudden decide because that medication didn't work that the entire medicine is BS. That's what happens in my field. If I don't hit a home run with the first herbal formula I give someone, the entire medicine is BS. Or when you have cultural like authority, like Western medicine, they'll keep coming back to you. So, that one didn't work. Okay, let's try this one. Oh no, that one didn't work. Let's try this one. They never lose faith in the medicine or the doctor.
Yeah.
So do you have to deal with a lot of people that are skeptical?
Yes, and I was a skeptic too, even into Chinese medicine school. I don't expect anyone to have blind faith. This medicine does not rely on you needing to believe in it for it to be effective. If it did, it wouldn't be around. It'll make you a believer when it works for you. That's
Right.
why it's still around. So no, most people are not believers in it, and it has no implications on how effective it is. There's just a lot about the body we don't understand, right? You know, that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But again, getting back to the kind of cultural authority thing, they don't know how Tylenol works. Ask your doctor how Tylenol works.
Yeah.
Is anyone asking when your doctor prescribes you, tells you to take Tylenol or any other med? Are people saying, can you explain to me how that works? No one's saying that. With me, they say that.
Right.
I don't mind it, but sometimes whether it's going to work for you does not rely on me having a satisfactory answer for that. I'm amazed just like anybody else when it works. What do we know? What do I know? I don't know anything. All I know is that it survived for this amount of time for reasons, and all the treatments that Western medicine is doing today, are they going to be around? Are they going to be around much longer? No, even treatments for 50 years ago are not around anymore. Western medicine's changing all the time. So to act like it's a completed science is ridiculous. When there's very limited downside, because for the most part, the downside is it's not going to work. Fair enough. You try something else.
Try it.
Yeah, exactly. It's worth a shot, though, especially before some of the more serious interventions. I mean, I've had many people that surgeries didn't work for them, injections didn't work for them, and acupuncture did. So try that first. That's it. I don't try to make a believer out of anybody. I'm going to try to do my best to solve the issue you came in with.
Offer your
If that makes you a believer, then fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I can think of people that they've come in with 10 years of back pain every day. I give them a couple of treatments, they don't have back pain anymore, and they don't want to give you any of the credit. They're like, oh, well, I started doing my stretches, I started taking my B vitamins. It's like, all right, they don't want to give the credit for that. I don't care.
At the end of the day, they're feeling better.
Exactly. I was skeptical even, like I said, into school, which is a good thing to be, but I didn't let that not make me open-minded. I realized if all these millions of people for thousands of years, is it possible they have seen something that I'm aware of, or am I right and all of them are stupid? You know what I mean? So it's kind of arrogant to think that you have some kind of an answer that millions of people over thousands of years, like they're all just. So at least I don't need you to believe in it, but just be honest, be neutral.
Yeah.
Just be willing to give it a shot. That's all I need. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's skeptical necessarily, but when I hear acupuncture, I think needles, and I think I don't like needles, and I don't want to do anything that has needles. But after hearing you talk about the chi, and I'm picturing it kind of running through different parts, and you're stimulating those parts with the needles. Is that kind of how it works?
So the needles are as thin as a hair. They're not the same, the needles. Yeah. And you may somewhat. When I'm treating pain, I like you to feel the needle a little bit because it'll work better. In Chinese medicine, they call it getting the chi. So getting the chi essentially means you're going to feel that needle to some degree. Now, most of what people are afraid of is they're afraid of what that feeling will be. They're not afraid of the feeling. It's the anticipation. I've had people going, ow, 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 and I'm just touching them. I haven't even done the needle. So it's the fear of that. But what it actually feels like is either a quick flash, like a quick zing that passes in a second, or it'll feel like a heaviness, like a thumb is pressing down. And that is correlated with the results from the literature and in my experience.
I think the heaviness is the best way to describe it for me.
Yeah.
From what I feel.
If you're going to knock pain out, like instantly, it's like someone moves their arm and now they have pain, and you're going to put a needle in and make it where now they can move their arm and there's no pain instantly, which is possible. I say it all the time. You have to create that feeling. I can needle you where you won't know anything happened. It's not going to do that. Because you're stimulating a nerve, and that's going to have some kind of a systemic neuroendocrine response to it that I don't think we fully understand, but I would imagine your body is manufacturing natural painkillers and anti-inflammatories and things that it makes that are much more potent than what you can get.
Well, the cool thing too is that like you've done things like to treat my sinuses sometimes, like you'll put it between my toes. Like the connection of all the different areas in your body is just amazes me.
And they've done too, like where if they do a scan on somebody's brain, and you needle a point in their foot for eyesight, and the part of the brain that controls that will become excited and active. So it's not, I look at it like this, right? We have different functional terms for parts of our body, our wrist and our elbow. To me, they're mile markers on a highway. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a functional difference that we created a new word for, but they're not separate things. Your wrist is not separate from your shoulder. Nothing on your body is separate. And when you see enough of that, because one of my first experiences with my acupuncture teacher is I probably lifted too heavy in the gym and I couldn't raise my arm for 6 weeks. I had pain and I couldn't raise it past this point. And she put 2 needles in my opposite lower leg, and instantly I had full range of motion and it was gone and I never came back. Now, it felt like she hit me with a lightning bolt because the stronger the stimulus, she wasn't taking it easy on me because I'm not new to this. So that stimulus you feel, now, so some people are more afraid of that feeling than they are of the pain they have.
Right.
Then I can't help.
Because they know this pain. They don't know what that's going to be.
Exactly. I can't help. You have to not want your pain enough to at least take that chance. And some people you really can't needle them the way that you need to. And then I'll just kind of ease them into the process. Once they start to trust me more, the process more, then you can start to show them more results. Now, they may not be patient enough, because at the same time, they might want all the results, even though they're not allowing the complete process to happen. Not everybody's ready to be an acupuncture patient.
Yeah.
One of the best things I think about school was school turns you into a really good patient because of the understanding you have of the process.
Yeah.
And patient education is a big thing in general, but it's very necessary in Chinese medicine, and unfortunately, because these concepts are not taught to us since we're young, they're not part of our culture, so it makes it even a little bit more challenging.
Right.
You know.
So obviously, for someone to build this relationship with a practitioner and to build that trust, they need to kind of know what to look for, because they're not going to know who you are, what your personality is like. So for the people out there that may be interested in finding out more about traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture, what are some of the credentials to look for? What's some of the training to look for? How can people find you? All of those kinds of contact information
Well,
things.
depending on the state you're in, you should have to have graduated from Chinese medicine school with a master's degree. I think there are a few states out there that don't require any sort of education, but I would imagine even the practitioners in that state do, because you're probably not going to be in business, or
Right.
if you don't know what you're doing. Really, I'd say just try the acupuncturist out and pay attention to, go with your intuition and go with what you feel. Most people will seek it out for pain in this country in the beginning. And it should be pretty obvious whether it's working or not. I mean, if you get within the first few treatments, I'm expecting to see pretty good relief.
Well, is there some sort of an association or something that you belong to that you can like search on to find people that are?
Well, the NCC AOM is the national kind of credentialing body.
Okay.
So
what does that stand for?
Good question, right?
That's a lot of letters.
Something acupuncture and Oriental medicine. National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. If I had to guess, that's probably what it is.
Sorry.
And then you can search by state, I'm guessing?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But if you see LAC at the end of their name, or some people are DAOM if they, have gone for their doctorate in that.
Okay.
But as far as getting a good acupuncturist, I don't think you can know that until you try it out and you see what it did for you. Different acupuncture, you might have somebody who's objectively a great acupuncturist. Maybe they failed for this person, and somebody who's not succeeded with this person. All things are possible.
Right.
All things are possible. No, obviously, if someone has a lot of experience in that particular ailment, or if they've been in practice for a while, it's probably more likely that they are going to be better. But I always tell people, look, if I didn't help you, it doesn't mean acupuncture or Chinese medicine doesn't work. It's just I failed.
Yeah.
Well, but that also gives it back to the patient to say, okay, well, obviously it was him. I can still look for somebody else, instead of them feeling like, well, obviously I failed and I didn't do it properly. So that's a good way.
And both can be
too.
And both can be true, because sometimes that person is not completely honest with you. I've known people, not my patients, but I've known people like through family that maybe they consume a lot of a certain substance they're not telling their doctor, and that's why their symptoms aren't going away.
Right.
So you don't always know. But with pain, that's why I like treating pain a lot, because I don't really need you to do a lot. Digestive, now I'm asking something of you, right?
Right.
You have to make a change.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always harder when you're asking something of the people are saying, look, I'm not paying you so that I have to go do something.
Yeah.
Just take my problem away.
Yeah.
And it's pain, you can do that more so. Now, sometimes there's a limit to it. You see people that, I sleep on my side and I'm coming in for shoulder pain. Like, all right, it's going to be a bit of a tug of war here. If that's what's aggravating your shoulder pain, is your sleeping position. So that can be now we can show you relief. Is it going to be enough where you're not just going to wake up the next day and feel frustrated? Is it going to justify your commitment? So I always find the most powerful medicine is always free, and it's always something that you're going to be doing. And it's going to be labor on your part. It's not going to be money you're going to spend. Western medicine is always looking to add something, right? You're deficient in this drug or this surgery. I need to add something. I'm always looking to take something away.
Yeah.
What can we remove from the picture and just see what gets better? Just like cutting out sugar versus adding diabetic medication.
Yeah.
So the via negativa, they call it, like the process of removing something, but that's work. That's work for somebody, you know. Now I have a whole process on how I do that and make it possible, because I've cut a lot of things out and made a lot of changes that would seem like it took a lot of motivation to do that, but it really didn't. You know, you have to look at the long game, and you have to make very small, sustainable changes where you're not going to burn yourself out, and it's going to feel almost effortless to do it. It's the same approach I take with exercise. People are all or none. They either want to like beat themselves up into mercy and submission, or they do nothing. You know, you either don't go to the gym or you go there until you hurt yourself.
Find balance.
Exactly.
Balance. We're all about
authentic
balance.
wellness.
But we look at things on a linear graph, but most things in nature are not on a linear graph. They might go linear to a certain point before more actually does the worst thing. And you just have to pay attention to that,
Right.
and to find that rational balance of both. So
Awesome.
a lot of the stuff is, I think, you know, makes sense when you think about it, but a lot of times we're acting. We're not necessarily thinking.
Right.
Right. Well, I think today's been a great example of, if you want to act on looking at different ways of finding your authentic wellness and
Yes.
looking at
Yeah.
Western and Eastern medicine.
And don't
you
think
have
that anything is
options.
hopeless. The thing that I hated the most about my experience with Western medicine is they act like it's very fatalistic. You have this name of a disease, nothing can be done about that. I never believed that. It might be true. I need to find out for myself, and I'll find out after I exhaust every possible option. And most of the time, you'll realize that it's not that true.
It's not true.
It's
Right.
not true at all.
Yeah.
Right.
You got yourself here, you can get yourself out. Obviously, there's exceptions to everything, but exhaust all your possibilities before you accept that.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
And incorporate acupuncture into one of those options.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
My
your
pleasure.
time. It was great
Yeah.
having you here
Great to be
today.
here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What do you think? So I was very impressed. As I said coming into it, I thought it was just strange that you get little needles stuck into you, but I now understand that Eastern medicine is more than just acupuncture and herbs. It's a whole process of trying to find balance, trying to find your authentic way of wellness.
Balance,
and
authentic
balance.
ways. Is that what we're all about?
Right, and just the whole idea of this energy that's moving through your body and being able to tap into it, or to find herbs or medicines that are natural to enhance that. It's really, really interesting.
And I do have to say that it is a little bit of trial and error, like he said.
Right.
So I've gone through that with him,
Yes.
with my teas that I've been drinking. So he'll give me a little combination of herbs. I have no idea what's in there,
Yeah.
but I make a tea and I'll drink the tea, and it does help. It helped my asthma.
Wow.
It at one point it brought my smell back,
Really?
and it lasted for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then it was gone again.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying. I keep trying.
But you know, that's exactly what he said. You have to be willing, number one, to acknowledge when something does work,
Mm-hmm.
and then when everything else in your system has to get into balance again, maybe something changes. So being willing and open to keep trying
Yes.
and keep looking for the right answers. I just think it's amazing. I'm learning so much.
I know. Me too.
It is just crazy.
And I hope our viewers are learning a lot too.
I hope they are. I think they are.
Yes.
So join us next time. Who knows what you might learn.